Incredible bravery of the Afghanistan war hero blown apart by a Taliban bomb, taking his first steps towards his dream of walking unaided to the cenotaph and laying a wreath on Remembrance Sunday. Sergeant Rick Clement lost both legs after stepping on IED in Afghanistan. Soldier, 35, has spent 5 years coming to terms with life-changing injury. He has now taken first steps with the help of £2.50,000 mechanical legs. Hopes to walk to the cenotaph, to lay remembrance wreath for his charity with concentration etched deeply on his face. Rick Clement takes one faltering step after another, clinging to the handrails for support. This is the incredibly moving moment. The Army sergeant determinedly takes his first steps since being blown apart by a Taliban bomb. Having never thought he'd walk ever again, the Afghan war hero shows all the steely determination that made him a decorated leader of men, as he takes the tentative steps 5 years after losing both of his legs in an IED explosion. The 35-year-old soldier, who has suffered the highs and lows of both marriage and divorce since returning home from his life-changing Afghanistan tour, now hopes to fulfill his dream of walking to the cenotaph. Sergeant Rick Clement lost both of his legs after stepping on a Taliban bomb while serving in Afghanistan in May 2010. He has spent the last 5 years coming to terms with his injuries, and has now taken his first steps. Sergeant Clement had concentration etched deeply on his face, as he carefully took his first steps since the IED explosion in Helmand province, which left him with devastating injuries and unable to have sex or children. Describing himself as RoboCop, he said he wants to give himself every chance at life after posting a video showing himself taking his first steps towards his dream with the help of £2.50,000 mechanical legs. His incredible bravery has received widespread support from not only friends and family, but also millions of social media users following his story around the world. It comes just 5 years after the thought of walking on his own to the cenotaph and returning to life as normal with his fiancée seemed like monumental obstacles to overcome. The soldier, who had joined the army at 17 after leaving Clitheroe Royal Grammar School in Lancashire, was serving with the 1st Battalion of the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment in Helmand Province, when he suffered critical life-changing injuries on May 27, 2010. He stepped on a Taliban mine while leading a foot patrol and lost both of his legs, before dying twice on the flight home from Camp Bastion. When he came round, he was told he would never be able to have children or a sex life, due to his genitals also being catastrophically damaged. Following his return to Britain, he began his long road to recovery, and even married his long-term girlfriend Leanne Isaacs, 35, who vowed to stand by her perfect man despite his devastating injuries. She loyally supported the man she had met on Facebook 2 years prior, sitting by his bedside as he lay in hospital fighting for his life. As his condition improved, the pair bought a large house specially adapted to his disabilities using part of the £575,000 compensation he received. And when he was well enough, they chose to marry in a lavish ceremony in front of 100 friends and family at Little Singleton, Lancashire. Although his injuries meant he was wheelchair-bound for the service and unable to stand at the altar. But the brave soldier, from Chatham, Lancashire, wore his army uniform and medals with pride, as scores of guests showered the glowing couple with confetti after the moving service. He described himself as the luckiest man in the world, heralding his wedding as a momentous occasion, because he came so close to not being here. It was followed by a honeymoon across the Atlantic, with a 3-day break to New York, before a trip to Bermuda. However, upon returning home, the painful realities of their new life together began to take their toll on the couple. Sergeant Clement, a man whose career had been founded on his physicality, his strength, his masculinity, felt diminished and emasculated. His wife, meanwhile, found herself redundant, sidelined and rejected. It culminated in them making the heartbreaking decision to split, with Leanne moving out of their 4-bedroom family home in Blackpool, Lancashire, less than 2 years after they married. The carer, who worked at a nursing home at the time, moved into a nearby flat with her 2 children from her first marriage, Aaron, 11, and Kyle, 8. who still visits Sergeant Clement to this day. At the time, the heartbroken soldier said neither of them could take any more, saying they had gone from being a happy, active couple to more like brother and sister. He said, "We talked it through so many times and we took it very badly. There were a lot of tears. I wanted to make her happy, and at my lowest moments I will say to myself, Christ, I am not a man anymore. A guy can't feel much worse than that. We could never make up for what was missing." Watching Lee mourn for me and for not having the man I'd been before the blast, and not being able to fulfill her, that became too much to take. Obviously I've lost my legs as well as my testicles, but there is simply no comparison in how these injuries affected my life with Lean. Lean also said the pair struggled to overcome his life-changing injuries, saying the partner she once knew never returned from Afghanistan, adding that the man who did was a stranger. She said, "The change in him was shocking. He put on a brave face to the world, but when we were on our own, he was an emotional wreck, always crying." The cuddly, caring man I'd known had gone as their relationship disintegrated. Sergeant Clement threw himself into raising money for his charity A Soldier's Journey, which helps injured soldiers, and has already raised £250,000. He also began to focus on his rehabilitation, setting himself the goal of walking to the Cenotaph, to lay a wreath on Remembrance Day. The pair married in a lavish ceremony in front of 100 friends and family at Little Singleton, Lancashire, but the painful realities of their new life together began to take their toll on the couple and they split 2 years later. So far, he has spent 4 months at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham and 18 months at Headley Court, the Surrey-based rehabilitation centre for injured soldiers. And despite being told that he was unlikely to ever walk again, with doctors even warning that prosthetics may not be an option due to his severe injuries, the war hero has now taken his first steps towards his dream. With the help of £250,000 mechanical legs, the brave soldier took his first steps at the Specialist Mobility Rehabilitation Centre in Preston. Describing himself as RoboCop, he said he wants to give himself every chance at life. He told The Big Issue, "I was surrounded by guys that were running marathons, swimming, climbing walls, and straight away that altered my mindset. I thought, if they can do it, so can I." This was a million miles away at one point, but the technology has advanced so much. It's not a certainty, but it's a distinct possibility, that I will be able to walk again in some shape or form. His incredible bravery has received widespread support from not only friends and family, but also millions of social media users following his story around the world. This week, he posted video footage of himself taking his tentative first steps online, which he captioned with, "Please like and share my first real steps towards the Cenotaph. A long way to go, but I'm so chuffed with the start as Soldier's Journey." Prince Harry talks to Sergeant Clement at a viewing of Wounded, the Legacy of War at Somerset House last year. Days before, he told his followers, "Time for some walking. Journey to the Cenotaph starts here now. We have all the parts." Feeling determined at Specialist Mobility Rehabilitation Centre. The posts have already been shared by hundreds of thousands of Facebook users, with Sergeant Clement describing himself as really overwhelmed by all the support from his awesome fans. Tim Gargan, a former recruit who completed his army training under the soldier, shared the video and said he couldn't even put into words the pride, respect and inspiration he felt. He wrote, "Rick Clement trained me nearly 10 years ago at the Infantry Training Centre, Cuderick. I still remember him sprinting up the hills in the land of Nod, leading from the front and leaving us all wondering how we'd ever catch up with him. To a man we all looked up to back then, I don't even have the words to describe the pride, respect and inspiration I felt when I watched this just now. Please don't forget our young and not so young lads and lasses, some of whom are still fighting a war every day and night of their lives, physically and mentally." Sergeant Clement is now continuing his rehabilitation care in a bid to one day fulfill his dream, to walk to the Cenotaph in London, while raising money for the charity, which is so close to his heart.